I'm Kelsey Cumpton.
And I'm Salmon.
Today we have chosen to talk to you about whether shaken baby syndrome is real. Recently, many have said that shaken baby syndrome is not a real thing, but we are here to explain to you that it is and why we think that.
Shaken baby syndrome is the violent or severe shaking of an infant or small child. This can cause physical or mental damage. It causes abusive head trauma, and it's most common in the child's first year of life. A child can normally become unconscious, and it can lead to severe disability or even death.
What are the effects of shaken baby syndrome? Shaking a baby can result in irritability, vomiting, brain swelling, internal bleeding, seizures, difficulty staying awake, difficulty breathing, a coma or a loss of consciousness, or even death in severe cases.
Here's a picture of what happens whenever you shake a baby. The subdural space fills with blood, and bleeding can also go into the subarachnoid space, as the picture shows.
Who can do it? Anyone can become irritated and shake a baby, whether they mean to or not. Parents, grandparents, other relatives, friends, or babysitters can all shake a baby.
Is this shaky science? Recent debates have people questioning whether or not SBS is real. In an article published by the Chicago Tribune, some say that the symptoms associated with SBS cannot be produced by shaking alone. These people doubt that enough force can be generated by shaking to seriously injure the brain of a child.
The same article also says that violently shaking a baby can lead to serious injuries, especially if there is neck whiplash or if the baby's head strikes a hard surface. While shaken baby syndrome is a tricky diagnosis for doctors to make, many of these doctors agree that shaken baby syndrome is real and that it can be very harmful or even potentially fatal to children.
Dr. Cindy Christian from the American Academy of Pediatrics reports some babies are injured by shaking, some by blunt impact, some by a combination of factors. She states in the report she wrote, she doesn't say shaken baby syndrome is benign. The report doesn't say shaking doesn't harm children, and it does not say there is no such thing as SBS.
We believe that shaken baby syndrome is real. In our opinion, shaken baby syndrome is most definitely real and is harmful to children. Many others, including doctors and judges, agree that shaken baby syndrome is a real thing. Recently, many people have been charged after violently shaking a child, with no question from a judge that this is abuse.
SBS is abuse. In some cases, SBS may be difficult to prove because of the other factors. However, in many cases, there is enough evidence to prove that SBS actually occurred. This should be considered abuse, and it needs to be punished to the full extent of the law. Even if the child does not die, shaking a baby is never acceptable, and the parent should be punished.
Dr. Lowenstein discusses the many factors that go into making the diagnosis of shaken baby syndrome, including non-accidental factors. Some of these non-accidental factors include a radiology or an MRI scan to prove that the baby was shaken, interviewing parents and other family members to see if this activity is normal, as well as accidental factors such as injuries that may have occurred at birth or other potential causes that could show the signs of a baby being shaken.
More about the research and views. Dr. Lowenstein admits that while SBS may be hard to diagnose, it is real and it is abuse. Diagnosing a child with SBS is not rash, and many factors are considered carefully in order for the right diagnosis to be made. With better education of infant handling, we can prevent the shaking of infants and small children.
5 to 15 years. Shocking, sickening, sadistic. That was the words of Justice Richard L. Butcher. A 10-week-old named Annie fell unconscious in her home after being shaken violently. Her father then delayed calling 911. Annie passed away 5 days later in the hospital. Medical experts testified that her injuries were consistent with shaken baby syndrome and abusive head trauma. Annie suffered a skull fracture, broken legs, and catastrophic brain injury. Her father was convicted of second-degree manslaughter and endangering the welfare of a child.
A daycare operator gets 32 years. A home daycare operator was convicted of the murder of a 10-month-old child and was sentenced to 32 years in prison. This baby was reported to have suffered massive head trauma, but amazingly survived for 16 months. Medical experts testified that SBS was the cause of the death. There is no offense worse than murder, and there is no murder no more troublesome than that of a child, states Assistant State Attorney Karen Masters.
Facts and figures about shaken baby syndrome. Each year in the United States, 1,400 to 1,600 infants and small children are diagnosed with shaken baby syndrome. Abusers don't pay the cost of hospitalization, court or lawyer fees, therapy, continued medical care, special education, or living expenses. Instead, the victims' families, taxpayers, and insurance companies have to pay these things. The Texas Brain Injury Association estimates that the lifelong care of a single victim can amount to approximately $3 million.
More shaken baby syndrome facts and figures. SBS remains the leading cause of death among infants and small children from abusive head trauma. However, shaken baby syndrome is 100% preventable. By providing education support, lives can be saved.
The importance of avoiding shaken baby syndrome. All parents can become frustrated at times. However, one mistake can cause severe consequences. Your mistake could result in serious harm or even death of your child. You also could face murder charges for one moment of weakness. It is important to be able to relax and avoid shaking your child when you get irritated.
Relax and avoid shaking your child. If you feel like you might lose control, you need to take a deep breath. You can count to 10. You can place the baby in a safe place and leave the room. You can call a relative or a friend for support and or help. Or you can call your baby's doctor to see if there is a medical reason for your child's crying.
If your child is crying uncontrollably, go through this checklist to see if you can figure out the cause of their crying. See if they're hungry or if they need burped. See if they're tired and try to lay them down for a nap. Check if their diaper needs changed. Check if they are sick, and also try playing with them to see if they are bored and just need some attention.
Preventing SBS. The New York State Department of Health offers suggestions for preventing SBS. Educating parents and caregivers about the dangers of SBS, informing new parents of how babies can and will cry more during certain hours of the day, and any state licensed maternity ward must show new parents informational videos on the dangers of SBS before their discharge.
Resources for shaken baby syndrome. If you suspect a child has been shaken, seek medical attention immediately. Do not hesitate to call the parent helpline at 1-800-CHILDREN if you are experiencing a child who is crying and you think that you may lose control. The National Center on Shaken Baby Syndrome has many resources, including signs, symptoms, consequences, and frequently asked questions related to shaken baby syndrome.
We hope that you agree that shaken baby syndrome is both real and abuse. We hope you understand the importance of avoiding shaking a baby, and that you are able to relax and avoid doing something you may regret. We also hope that you will report it if you think someone has shaken or may shake their child or any other child.
As this picture shows, babies are very fragile. Your one moment of weakness could cause the loss of a child. Make sure that you are able to step back and relax so that you do not shake a baby.
Shaken baby syndrome is only one form of abuse. There are many others, which are physical, which is the bruising, burns, and bite marks on a child; sexual, which is the unwanted sexual attention or forcing sexual behavior of one person onto another; and emotional, which can cause psychological trauma, including depression, anxiety, and other mental disorders.
If you suspect any type of abuse, don't hesitate to report it immediately. Call the Missouri Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-392-3738. By making a simple phone call, you could be saving a child's life.
For this PowerPoint, we gathered information from articles from the American Academy of Pediatrics, the National Center on Shaken Baby Syndrome, the Chicago Tribune, and StopShakenBabySyndrome.org.
We also use resources from the Chicago Tribune and the New York Times, and a research article that was published by Dr. Lowenstein, and information from the New York State Department of Health on preventing shaken baby syndrome. Thank you for your time.